Okay, hey everybody, Dan Fitzpatrick here, stockmarketmentor.com. And before I get to a chart, which I think you're going to dig, it's a nice breakout. I want to just kind of bring your attention to this. I'm just about done editing, doing the final editing on my 7 deadly trading mistakes and how to fix them book. And what I'd like you to, I mean, you're obviously already on our email list because you get these nightly videos, but this is a separate email list that I'm inviting you to be on. It's just to give you kind of the early heads up on when this book is going to be released. So if you get a chance, just do that. Just click on that link, and then the banner out on the front, and then you'll be able to put in your name. In fact, I want to make sure that I get notice of it. So there. Okay, be the first. See, okay, that's it. Now I'm going to get notification about when I can buy that book. So I'm really, really thrilled about that. Now, back to our regularly scheduled program. I want to look at biotech today. Now, there's a bunch of stocks in different sectors that are really running. And a lot of times, though, what I do when it's like, what do I choose? I'll look at the ETFs. And as you should know, biotech's been going for quite a while. I mean, it's been really running for a while. A lot of these stocks have been, but I just want to bring us back to the XBI because this traded on heavier than average volume today. And it broke out above 125, which it has done several times before. If you just look, let me pull here. I'll just pull this down to 125. You can see it's broken out several times and then always pulled back. Here it looked like, okay, that's going to be the breakout that's going to hold, and then it pulled back. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Well, if past history, which is what history is the past, is any indication of what's going to happen in the future, we should have more downside here. And then maybe another upside here. It should go back and forth like forever, right? Well, it's not going to go that way forever. But each time this oscillates around here, around this 125 level, it pulls the 50-day moving average closer and closer to this current range. And so that is what I've done is just kind of described the genesis of a volatility squeeze. It was just kind of a higher base here. So I want you to take a look at this. I wouldn't buy, just letting you know, I wouldn't buy this stock. I wouldn't buy it right now because if you do, what you're envisioning is that the stock's just going to continue to move higher, and it might do that. But I think the odds actually favor more of a little bit of a pullback, and that's what I would want to be. That's where I would want to be buying is if this stock, okay, it broke out here. If it pulls back into like the low 120s, that's when I would want to take a little nibble at this if you don't own it already. And just in a nutshell, think about it this way. I wouldn't take it all off. Think about it this way. Have you ever seen a chart like this where the stock just takes off, never comes back? I really haven't. I mean, I can't think of one. But what I have seen is a bunch of charts that just kind of do this, that just meander around for a while. Maybe ultimately we get this kind of a little pinching pattern here that ultimately then results in a move higher. But from what I'm seeing right here, I think this stock just has more work to do. So I'm giving you this, like, here's kind of a little plan for you. If this stock pulls back to the 120s, to low 120s, maybe even, geez, if it fell to the 50-day moving average, which right now is about $120, that's when you want to buy the stock. And just think about it this way. If this is the top of the range, this is the bottom of the range, Well, you don't want to be buying it at the top of the range unless it's a bona fide squeeze, which this is not. You want to be buying it at the bottom of the range because then it's a lower risk trade. It's got more room to the upside before it hits resistance, and it doesn't have much room to the downside because you're buying right at support. So, anyway, that is what my suggestion for you is to just go ahead and wait for this thing to come back. So that's all I got for you today. Members, I recorded quite a long one today. I actually had to go back and edit it. So my apologies. You're probably getting this a little bit later than you're used to. So we'll just call it operator error. All right. Okay. I'll see you guys tomorrow. By the way, Taiwan Semi reports earnings tomorrow morning before the bell. So look for that to move in a big way, one way or the other. All right. I'll see you guys.